Hello everyone. We are so glad that you could join us tonight for our second summit of the year. We have had an absolutely amazing school year. It has been such a joy to get to know so many of your families. We have done this through many field trips, including Dodger Stadium, the zoo, Riley's Farms, ice skating, and the Griffith Observatory, even lunches at Chick-fil-A. And we enjoyed weekly classes together. I am so thankful that we were already prepared for this crisis as you are already schooling at home. We hope that tonight you will be encouraged as you finish up the school year and plan for the next. Tonight we will be hearing from Pat and Jill Tanner on the joys of discipleship. We will also hear from many of your families through a few videos. To begin our night, we are going to hear from Dave Pratt, our school administrator. One of the things that makes our program unique is its connection to a fully accredited Christian school, and they provide us with so many wonderful opportunities. And with that, we will hear from Dave.
Hi everybody, my name is David Pratt. I'm the school administrator for Desert Christian Schools. Thanks for being here tonight. Hannah, thanks for letting me send this video in to kind of say hi and welcome everybody. I know that folks are here because they desire to raise their child in a biblical, Christ-like manner. I also know that your speakers tonight, Pat and Jill, will give you great training and advice in that area. So I trust that this evening will be profitable for you. I wanted to stop for just a minute and say thanks to Hannah. Hannah, thank you for servicing these families so well this year. Parents, I want to say thank you to you. Thanks for trusting Desert Christian and partnering with us in the education of your child. And we just pray for God's blessing on you and your family throughout the rest of this year and throughout the rest of your child's education. Thanks. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, Dave. At the end of the day, homeschooling is about Christ and kids. So we would like to hear from your families on the joys of homeschooling.
Hey David, what's your favorite part about homeschooling?
My favorite part about homeschooling is that I don't have to sit in the class for 8 hours, and that when I'm done with my homework, I can hang out with my brother and my dad, and after I'm done with my homework.
I'm Abby Lacefield, and I've been homeschooled my entire life. I enjoy homeschool because I have more free time to spend with my family. I also like homeschool because our program is Bible-based, so I know what I'm learning is healthy for my soul.
Hi, we are Jim and Missy DeVore, and we just want to share a little bit with you about why we love to homeschool.
I love developing relationships with our kids and how as you are going through teaching a particular subject, you get to know them really well and develop their heart for the Lord.
I actually, Missy does this more than I do, but I love the teachable moments. She can take almost any topic, and as she's in tune to the kids, it doesn't matter whether it's math or history or whatever. If it's an opportunity to share and glorify the Lord, bring in a Bible verse, encourage them to consider Jesus in some manner. It's just every moment is a teachable moment about the Lord, and I love to see that happen. I love the opportunity when I can do that as well. I like the flexible schedule. So if I want to take Monday off and drag the whole family somewhere, then I can do that, and so that's just a real blessing. It also means that if we're done early enough in the day, then we can also be a little more relaxed at night. So I like the flexible schedule as part of that.
I love how we can pick curriculum, incorporate games and other activities in our teaching, and I love being a part of co-ops. That's been a real blessing over the years, teaching our kids in that kind of a setting.
So do you have any favorite memories?
Oh yeah, the review game. I take a bag of miniature marshmallows, and if they got the answer right, just toss the marshmallow at them.
Right across the room, right to them. I was always told about it at the end of the day, how much fun they had.
And when all 6 kids were at home, it was fun because I was throwing marshmallows all directions.
Mine's a recent one. Great time on the trip to Dodger Stadium. What a fun thing that was, and really enjoyed that with our 13-year-old Jacob. Thanks for the opportunity, and God bless you.
A couple things I like about homeschooling are being able to focus in on the areas I struggle in since I have one-on-one help. I also like having more free time for after-school activities and family time.
I'm Lacefield, and I've been homeschooled 10 and my 12 years of schooling. Some of my favorite things about homeschool is that we get to pick a Bible-based curriculum, and I have extra time which I can pursue my art through private lessons and spend time with my family.
Fosters, and my favorite part about homeschooling is the flexibility. Right now, our kids are both in first grade, and usually they get done with their schoolwork around 11 or 12 o'clock, and they're usually in their pajamas, and after that they are ready to go out and explore. It's surprising how much of a self-starter they both are. They get in and they really get their work and they get excited about it. And also we get to place an emphasis on what's important to us, which is our relationship with the Lord, and we would like to lay that really strong foundation for them and show them what living as a Christian and as a follower of God is.
And last year, we actually had one of our children in public school, so we've experienced both public school and homeschool now, and really, really love homeschooling. I love just not being tied to having to get up every morning and drop them off at school by like 8 o'clock, and just it's such a long day too for the young kids to be in school for so long, when they can be home and playing and having a good time and just learning things around the household. They've become my little helpers with all the little chores, and I love it. And so I also was homeschooled 1st through 10th grade, and I have a lot of really great memories growing up, mainly because of the flexibility, just being able, we bought a trailer at one point and we're able to hit the road and just travel for a couple weeks and see places and still do our schoolwork and also learn about the places we were visiting. My parents always found a fun way to have us tour some random ice cream shops or California Missions or just different random things that are in the area. They let us come in and we'd say we're homeschoolers, and they want to show us how their company works, and I just think that was so cool. And so I look forward to doing similar things with our kids.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Jesse, and what I love most about homeschooling is I can spend a lot more time with my family, and I have been able to learn a lot more than I did in public school.
Homeschool because we get to do school at home, learn from our parents because my parents are cool, and in homeschool I learned way more than I did in public school for the whole year. One of the things I didn't like about public school is we would learn stuff that wasn't right, like the Big Bang and evolution and stuff, but in homeschool we get to learn about Jesus and what's true. And one of the things I love most about homeschool is jumping in my pool.
And I like homeschool because of the incredible selection of books and the Bible-based curriculum.
My favorite part about the homeschool education program is allowing the kids to get a good Christian education.
My favorite part is all the time we get to spend together and seeing all the relationships that are developed within the family, especially among the kids.
I enjoy taking the courses that reflect our talents.
I have the privilege of being able to take classes at Antelope Valley College and participate in high school sports.
My favorite part is being able to take the classes I wouldn't normally be able to take.
I love homeschooling because I can do my hobbies when I'm done with my homework.
Well, thank you to all the families that were able to send in videos. We love hearing from you. As I said earlier, we are going to be hearing from Pat and Jill Tanner on the joys of discipleship. Hopefully you were able to print out the notes they kindly made for us. Pat and Jill are some of the most respected people in the homeschool community, especially here in the AV, as they homeschooled all of their kids for many years and started this homeschool program. I hope that their words will be an encouragement to you.
So here we are in the Tanner House with Summit 2 of Desert Christian Home Education Program.
As a participant of the Desert Christian Home Education Program, you, the parent teachers, have signed on to teach your children more than just knowing the truth. You've signed on to train them to live out the truth.
Knowing all the information is different from applying it. The joy of discipleship is parenting. One of the greatest tools for parenting our children, those 24/7 students, is homeschooling them, teaching them to live out our faith using academic subjects.
And this is really important. One of the joys that Jill and I had when we recognized that we were responsible for the education of our children is that we could change the curriculum or the evaluative tools to actually be able to help us meet the characterological goals that we set for our children each year. Homeschooling gives you such an opportunity and such flexibility to be able to disciple your children toward Christ.
That's so true. Our children are our disciples. As parents, we are tools of God's grace.
Yeah.
The focus of Christian homeschooling isn't just about teaching them to know the truth, as Pat said, but training them to live out the truth. Homeschooling it's a tool by which we pass on our Christian faith. Paul David Tripp said, "You are parenting a worshiper. What or who are you training your child to worship? What he finds his identity in is what will rule his heart." And I would recommend that book. It's called Age of Opportunity by Paul David Tripp.
See, we train them to either worship God with what they do and how they live, what they learn, or to indulge in self and indulging in themselves in what they do and what they live and what they learn, and that they observe our object of worship, and if it is something or someone other than our faith or other than our Lord, they'll see it, and there's a real potential that they will follow in our footsteps and make themselves their Lord.
So how do we teach our children to live out the truth we find in the scriptures? This might sound very basic, but there's great simplicity to these concepts.
First, study the scriptures. Weave a life filled with Christ into every possible subject.
I think, Pat, one of the things that reminds me of is I had written a letter to then school superintendent for the state of California, asking him to, this is now probably 40 years ago, asking him to allow us to be able to teach creation to our children and when he was in public school. And he fired back a letter that said, "No, we are fine threading evolution into every possible subject."
One of the couples, because it was difficult for me to try and figure out how math communicated God until I asked one of our members in Desert Christian, and he said, "But math is absolute, just like God is. 1 is always going to equal 1. 1 and 2 is always going to equal 2. There are absolutes," and that was such a joy to realize that every single subject communicates something about God.
Yeah.
Second, be a student of the Bible and fellowship with other believers. Important that they understand that education is life, and then make a living out of your own walk with Christ your priority.
Make living out your own
That's
walk. It. You're making a living out
I'm
of it.
making a living out of it.
Get to know your child. It is possible to go from baseball practice to piano lessons to art class to Awana to martial arts, add in a field trip, and get homeschooling coursework done. But you also can do all of that and not know your child. All of those are good things. None are bad in themselves. Perhaps because everything else was canceled, the pandemic of 2020 allowed you to get to know your child. But I would say put your finger on the pulse of your child's heartbeat.
What are his hopes and fears? What are his gifts? What are the things that he's strong in? What motivates him? What is God calling him to do and to be? By getting to know them can only happen if we spend time, if we're intentional about spending time.
And then why don't you do the next one too?
Okay. So the point is that we initiate the relationship with our children as individuals. See, God initiated his relationship with us. He's always been the initiator, and it's important for us as God with flesh on to be able to initiate the relationship, and our children will wait for us to do that. When we're interested in their lives and we direct them toward whatever is true and lovely and right, we're discipling them. So don't wait for them to ask you what's important in your life. They already know, or they'll make decisions about that. You get involved in their lives.
That's right. Ask them what interests them or watch what interests them. Put wholesome things in front of them and teach them to ask questions that get to deeper thought.
And model a love for learning. One of the most valuable things you can do is to teach your child to love to learn. It's not so hard when they're little. They're curious. The older they get, though, like 60, the more difficult it can be. They are by nature eager learners, curious, interested, and fascinated with life. And if that becomes a passion for you, if that's something that you enjoy, they'll pick that up as well.
And one of the tools to teach them a love for learning is through unit studies. We called them back in the day. The term right now is called project-based learning, where you take a concept and build several subjects around that topic. Give each child an opportunity to choose the topic or a problem to solve and concentrate on that one topic one at a time. When the kids have responsibility for a topic, they are eager to learn all they can about it. I remember our son going into the library and checking out every book on sharks. But you just help them then with the resources. Point them in the direction of where the resources are.
If your child says that I'm bored or I don't want to do school today, take note. It's easy for us as teachers in our struggle for efficiency to get stuck in a rut and consider our child's responsibility like the topic or subject or organization. Sometimes we have to challenge their creativity, make life out of learning.
And then next you gather all the resources, videos, biographies, books, maps, people to interview, a garden, maybe where you're going to plot the garden or where you're going to go on a field trip. Gather all those things up and then determine what subjects you can include in each unit study, like history, geography, PE, science, math, music, any or all of those. And then cooperate together. Everyone works on it all together. Even the parents learn. And when the parents are learning, that demonstrates a love for learning.
We would take vacations, and every time we went on a vacation, there was some kind of exploration that we were going to have. We went through the Scotia lumber mill, and I forget, Tillinook, the cheese making factory, and dads and moms, it's really important for you to understand that you don't have to know it all. You can learn along with them and be joyful in that learning, be enthusiastic in that learning, and that will continue then their love for learning.
That's right. And then determine the length. How are you going to do this for 4 weeks or 2 weeks? Or I did California history for 3 years. And then distribute the responsibilities to each child at their own level. Give each one of them something to do that then contributes to the family in whatever is their bent.
You may even have the older teach the younger. That sometimes helps a lot. It certainly cements in for the teacher, but it's also a joy to recognize that in a family dynamic, there's always information going back and forth.
That's so fun. It's so fun. And then finally evaluate and then plan another one that interests the next child.
Find out how your child learns. Proverbs calls it their bent. And there are some tools. We're going to give you a kind of a framework to look at. You can help your child become an eagle learner when you find out the way they learn best. As you learn the different ways that your child perceives, takes in information, and the different ways in which they sort it when it's inside of them. They understand the way, if you can understand how they understand, then you can personalize their instruction the way that they learn it, like no other educational setting can.
Perceiving the information, they typically is concrete or abstract, and concrete is, it is what it is. I remember our child, we told him we were sitting down to the table, and he said, Pat told him, put your book down. And he did. He put it in his lap and kept reading. So he was a concrete thinker. And then there's abstract. It is not always what it seems, is kind of their mantra. And that's the perception. That's the way they perceive the information.
By the way, that will be probably age appropriate. They'll almost always start concrete, but they may become abstract. But they will have a bent. either concrete or abstract.
And then the way that they sort that information, where they put the information that they've received is either sequential or random. Sequential is linear, step by step. That's what this outline is. ABC 1, 2, 3. And random, which is the way I take notes, is in chunks with no specific order. I've got it all over the page. I'm a random sorter.
And there are advantages to both. So don't get hung up on the way that you perceive or the way that you sort. Find out what theirs is and work within theirs.
And there's an excellent book called The Way They Learn by Cynthia Ulrich Tobias, and you can get it on Amazon. But it's an excellent book that actually helps you as a teacher with the way that you learn, how you can best teach your child the way they learn. So that's an excellent book.
Pursue their passions. They are developing their identity. Because self-indulgence is natural and learning is natural, we have to work hard at teaching them and training them not to indulge self. So you direct their passions vertically. And again, God is not one that you can touch or hold or see. You can see the effects of what God is doing, but it's very difficult to see God himself. So in a lot of ways, you, the parents, are Jesus with flesh on.
That's so true. And if you don't do that, if you don't direct their passions vertically, their passions will be horizontal, and that is that they become interested in things or peers, that kind of thing.
They will find themselves looking for the needs that they have for them to be satisfied in a horizontal relationship, which is never going to happen, and not realize that God has already given them what they need in the vertical relationship.
Yeah, that's right. One of the fun things about homeschooling is that the topics that delight your children can be pursued in depth.
Yeah.
What motivates your child? What grabs their downtime attention? And then schedule it. With daily lessons pretty much completed by noon, it gives you all afternoon to enjoy things that they love.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to take a class in Latin or logic, bookkeeping or beekeeping or welding or missions. Homeschool affords opportunities to learn subjects that are not likely offered in other settings. That is life. And again, parents, you don't need to know how to weld in order to teach the welding. Take them with you into a class, or Latin or Hebrew.
That is deeper learning. So much of what they get in textbooks merely skims the surface of knowledge. So why not go deep and wide on a topic that interests them? Because you can.
When you do that, your children will understand that God is huge, that he affects every aspect of every subject that they could possibly learn about, that the whole universe is here so that we can come to understand him much better. That's the point. And that is the point of homeschooling.
That's so true.
Bless you guys. We'll see you in a bit.
Thank you, Pat and Jill, for your encouraging words. Now we are going to hear from our mentor moms. We have had a unique privilege for this past year to have these mentor moms a part of our program. These are well-experienced homeschool moms who are here to offer any support and encouragement that you may need as you are homeschooling. And with that, we will hear from them.
A common question that we get is, how do I teach my child to love learning? And one of the best things that we found to teach that is to teach our children using unit studies. The whole family can participate. The best thing to do to begin with is just to ask your kids what topics they're interested in. They don't have to agree, but everybody participates, all the different age levels. The second thing that you do is to list the school subjects that are going to be a part of this, whether it's math and history and science and Bible, and incorporating all of those. Even physical education should be incorporated into all of them. And then thirdly is to look for resources, whether that's reference books or fiction and nonfiction books, field trips, group studies, period clothing, relevant food that you might fix, movies, biographies, maps, photos, all kinds of things that you can pull in and put together. And then look for activities that they can do that uses as many senses or as many learning styles as possible. That might be graphing or art projects or video, producing a video or building things, recording, maybe even music, different period dancing. And then set a time limit to the study itself, whether it's going to be 2 weeks or a month or maybe 2 months. They will become eager and lifelong learners because they watch you get excited about learning.
Hello, my name is Joanne Gibson and I'm one of the mentor moms. I was told to give an encouraging word, and my word today is similar to what Bill Bennett told those who've been thrown into homeschooling because of this virus, that they love their kids more than anyone else, and that would be an encouragement for them just to continue to do what they're doing. And so same for you, even on those hard days or the times when things don't seem to be going just as you would hope, that your love for your kids is greater than anyone else's, and that you have been given this ability and to do what you're doing. And I just encourage you to press on and to just love those kids and give them all that they need. My favorite thing that I like to do during or while I homeschooled was to go on the field trips. And it was just a good time for the kids to be with other kids, to have a time of socialization as well as fellowship, to see some nature or to just take in something new. And I just pray that you guys would continue. My other thought was Galatians 6:9, which says, "Do not grow weary in doing good." So I just say finish strong.
Hi, I'm Kristen Johnson, and I am one of the mentor moms for Desert Christian Homeschool Program. I loved homeschooling. I know there were days that the day-to-day became mundane, but I want to encourage you to shake it up a little bit, maybe change the scenery. Lots of times I would do school outside. We'd take a little mini trip, maybe out to the poppies. Sometimes we would go over to Panera and just do school for the afternoon. Now that can't happen right now, but maybe in the fall when you start back up. Homeschooling is such a great way to pass your faith onto your kids every day, to bring Christ into everything. It gives us the opportunity to talk a lot about life without the pressures of deadlines. Even though there are a couple throughout the year, with our reporting that was due, those were minimal compared to all the pressures of regular schooling. We talked, we served, we laughed, we cried, and we solved the world's problems together. It was one of life's greatest blessings in my life.
Thank you to our mentor moms for making that video for us. If you would like to get connected with one of these ladies, feel free to let me know. They would be more than willing to offer any support and encouragement to you. And if you have been encouraged by one of these ladies in this past year, feel free to write them a note of encouragement and thank them for volunteering this past year. And with that, we're going to move into our next session with Pat and Jill on discipling your gifted kids.
Welcome back. This is session 2 of DCHEP's Spring Summit. We're going to talk for the next few minutes about discipling our gifted kids. Psalm 127:3 says, "Behold, children are a gift of the Lord. The fruit of the womb is a reward."
So children are described as a gift. Not only are they gifts, they are also gifted. And we're not talking about the GATE program, as in gifted and talented education, but instead the gifts that are listed in Romans 12:4-8. These gifts are not bestowed on us and our children just to make us feel good about ourselves, but instead to build up the body of Christ, the church.
Based in Romans 12:5-8, the study of the scripture passage lists the gifts and their purposes, but it tells how the gift is to be used. Your child has been given a gift for the purpose of the building up the next generation of the church, and these characteristics are evident even now that will help you personalize their education. A study of the spiritual gifts transformed our home, our parenting, the way we taught our children, and the way we discipled them.
We found a resource many years ago in the 1980s in which the authors went further analyzing the different gifts and built a resource that we found tremendously supportive in their book.
So the material is not original with us. Because the information was so helpful and because it revolutionized our discipling, our teaching, and our parenting, we want to share it with you, giving you a kind of a thumbnail sketch. This is a brief summary of each of the areas of giftedness and the characteristics that are consistent with those areas. If you want notes, you can download the PDF and move along in the outline with us. So let's dive in. I'm going to read Romans 12, 4 through 8. For as in one body we have many members, and the members do not all have the same function, so we, though many, are one body in Christ, and individually members of one another. Having gifts that differ according to the grace given us, let us use them. If prophecy, in proportion to our faith. If service, in our serving. The one who teaches in his teaching. The one who exhorts in his exhortation. The one who contributes in generosity. The one who leads with zeal. And the one who does acts of mercy with cheerfulness.
So the first one is the prophet or perceiver. And this is not the foretelling of future events. The Greek word there is propheteia, which means perception. So that's where we get it. In the scripture, specific traits and behaviors show up in the gift of perceiving. First, and this is with your outline, the ability to interpret scripture. God has gifted them with the ability to speak out with clear revelation about what the scriptures say.
To reveal information to others. The primary function of the gift is to reveal the information that the perceiver has been given. That way, he'll be able to help others. Information that is not always positive and not always well received according to our faith, perceiving in proportion to our faith. That's the how.
And then an ability to declare the truth to others. While believers and non-believers share a keen sense of right and wrong, it is the believer whose heightened sense of right and wrong is based on the morality and the standards of God's word.
So in a worldly application, especially right now, this is seen in the doctor or the politician who's ahead of the curve, who says this pandemic is going to be worldwide. A biblical character example would be Jonah, one who knows that what God is doing and he's sent to proclaim it. In the church, this is generally the senior pastor or the teaching pastor.
So what can you as parents do to help your child perceiver? First, you can teach them how to relate to people and to draw their value and identity from their relationship with Jesus Christ, and train them how to accurately study the scriptures, which is, you can take a lot of years to do that.
Yeah.
Encourage your perceiver by giving them practical guidelines on how to deal with criticism of others and to pray more for his peers.
Yeah. The second gift is the gift of service. Romans 12:7 says, if service, then in our serving. Specific behaviors demonstrated in the scriptures that are servers, they've been given a need to provide for others, a sense of responsibility for someone else. Servers have an extraordinary ability to recognize the tasks that need to be done, and they're very mindful, usually, of their surroundings. They're motivated by helping someone. Because servers tend to prefer jobs and support roles, they're not usually in the forefront or public eye, and their personalities tend to be quieter and more reserved. They see the needs behind the scenes and as essential to making things work out on the front lines.
That's right. They show their loyalty through action rather than words. Servers take care of the less fortunate in society, such as the poor and the widowed. They're mindful of them.
So using, again, the pandemic as a worldly example, this is the person that sees beyond their own needs to those that need hospital gowns and masks, and they'll find a way to make them. The biblical character that displays this is Epaphroditus, and you may not have heard of that, but then that makes my point. He's a delegate to the Christian community at Philippi, sent with their gift to Paul during his first Roman imprisonment, but most of us couldn't spell his name. In the church, this is our sheepdogs that protect the flock while the church is happening, our elder board that spiritually protects our flock and sometimes are rarely known or seen. These are the volunteers who fold bulletins and count the offering, our publications purpose, the website designer, our bookkeeper, a bunch of behind the scenes.
And you can see how that all fits together. What can you as a parent do to help your child serve? You can encourage them by giving them places to serve, whether that's at home or in the church. They can be, if you're teaching Sunday school, have your child alongside you. Let them watch you serve. Remind them.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Go ahead.
Remind them of who they are serving. Show your appreciation for this child often, and keep their serving hands busy.
Yeah. The next one is the teacher. For Romans 12:7, it says, the one who teaches and is teaching. So the teacher gift is one who uses sound, rational, and instructive reasoning to convince and help others to learn. People with the gift of teaching are consummate debaters. It's how they convince and help others to learn. They can analyze or take apart and synthesize, put back together again ideas which result in a constant mental flow of information.
They need to know the reasoning behind the concepts or ideas. They love to learn and keep their minds busy. They usually enjoy research. They're the ones who use Siri to give them reminders and to record their ideas throughout the day. And finally, they love the opportunity to share something that they've learned.
Yeah. So application for the pandemic, the one who interprets the graphs or who works tirelessly to come up with either a cure or a vaccine. The biblical character who displays this would be Solomon or Ezra. For the church, usually it's the pastor teacher, but this could be a Sunday school teacher or a small group leader.
And so what can you as parents do to help your child teacher? Train him to articulate his thoughts. Get good at writing and get good at speaking. Help him to narrow his passions so that he can learn a platform for his gift. Mm-hmm. Pray with him for direction. Allow your child to dig out interesting facts to share with the family at dinner time or the co-op class or a small group that he's involved in.
Fourth is from Romans 12:8, the one who exhorts in his exhortation. A gifted exhorter or encourager inspires and motivates others. Encourages not only to persuade and inspire others, but they also like to prescribe practical advice. They feel comfortable around people and tend to be extroverts. Not always the case, but they tend to be extroverts. They are people, meaning that they are enthused by being around people. Encouragers are usually ones that recognize needs in people and recognize how to meet those needs. They want to see people improve and succeed. For the COVID-19 pandemic, this is the person who mobilizes the volunteers and matches a resource with a need. The biblical character that comes to mind is Moses. How would you like to lead 2 million people out of slavery? For the church, it's the person who encourages in any way. Notes, cards, blogs, emails, always drawing our attention to worship amid whatever chaos we may be experiencing.
Yeah, that's really good. What can you as parents do to help your child encourage him to use his gifts and develop his full potential? Be aware that of his gifts as he relates to group interaction and personal growth and the kids next door. Help him to funnel his talkativeness into productive outlets like speeches and reports and leadership, maybe Toastmasters. Who knows? Maybe he'll write a book.
Yeah. The next category is the contributor or the giver. In verse 8, it says, the one who contributes in generosity. The meaning is to impart that way of giving or contributing. The how is how one is to contribute is with generosity, which is a natural thing for a giver. Being charitable or having a charitable attitude. Givers also donate their time through volunteer work or helping others in some way, often making personal sacrifices of time and self. Go ahead.
They give much out of little. This is the how part. When the patience and generosity of others has run out, the true giver will continue to be gracious. They're also hospitable. Givers are people who love to host and entertain.
Yeah. Pandemonia of 2020. This is the person who donates toward providing for those that can't fend for themselves. They shop, often at their own expense, for the special item that their neighbor needs. They're the ones caring for family members who are otherwise healthy. The biblical character that expresses the gift, I just enjoy the widow at Zarephath and how she took such good care of the prophet. For the church, this may be the person who gives a specific amount because the Lord has told them to, and that amount turns out to be exactly what the benefactor needed. These are people who host the Welcome Center at the church or the one who sets up the communion trays.
I love those when that happens. What can you as parents do to help your child giver? Let him use his industriousness in projects and in helping others to accomplish tasks. He will need to learn parameters of discernment so that he's not taken advantage of easily. And teach him that his identity comes from his relationship to Jesus Christ.
Yeah. The sixth is the leader or the administrator, and Jill is one of these. Romans says that he who leads with zeal. The behaviors of a leader or administrator are similar to the behaviors of the 6 motivational gifts, which makes this one harder to identify, but the difference is the motivation. The administrator's objective is to move everyone toward a common goal. He provides sound counsel to convince them. He also gives admonition and warning of upcoming situations. Jill is able to see the problem and the 4 steps that it's going to take to get to the solution. That is an attribute or a characteristic of a administrator.
Well, thank you. He is intuitive, which enables him to look ahead for possibilities and dangers. That means he's got the big picture, or he needs a global perspective. And because of the global perspective, he generally has an assertive, take charge attitude. So naturally they appear bossy to other people who do not understand the administrator's gift.
And see, this is probably a good time to just insert really quickly that I'm an exhorter and Jill's an administrator, and I want you to understand that those 2 gifts, even though I'm the head of the household, can work together.
Yes.
The pandemic example. They have their finger on the pulse of the big picture. These people are decision makers. We're going to run out of ventilators. They can calculate quickly. Everyone needs a mask. In the New Testament, I would look at Paul as an administrator, someone who built the church, recognizing that he wasn't always going to be available. For the church, this is generally the pastor, but maybe the chairman of the board, a pastor or director that oversees a specific area of ministry or mission work.
And what can you as parents do to help develop your child administrator? Well, release him to lead and organize his peers. Train him to be observant of others and of the details. Finally, the 7th is the gift of mercy or compassion. This is the one who does acts of mercy, and the how is cheerfully.
In the New Testament, these with the gift of mercy are cheerfully compassionate for people. Empathizing with others is a valuable use of their time. The person that's in front of them is the most important person in the world at that moment. They have a strong desire to relieve the pain of others. This gift is concerned about the condition of the person who's suffering or in trouble. And that's why people with the gift of mercy are usually effective in roles that require compassion, pastors or social workers or counselors.
And they have an ability to show compassion and mercy and demonstrate a large amount of patience. They're less likely to become frustrated when people repeatedly come to them with problems, unlike those gifted in other areas.
In this pandemic, we're seeing that in nurses and doctors and healthcare professionals that are hands-on caring with the ill and immune compromised. They're the pastors, the funeral workers, and the first responders. A biblical character that comes to mind is certainly the Good Samaritan, who set his needs aside for someone that he didn't know. And for the church, these are the people who are the counselors, the grief support leaders, the small group leaders, anyone who connects with people that are in pain, and the mercy and the grace of Jesus.
So what can you as parents do to develop your compassion child? Permit him to use his creativity to bless other family members, whether by designing cards or notes or artwork or the like. Discuss often the way that believers are to treat and help the poor. We took our kids to the Alzheimer home every week. We called it the Alzheimer home. And taught them how to love on people who don't know them, and taught them how to introduce themselves and carry on a conversation, brief as it was, with people. All three of our kids are compassionate. Help him to develop a theology of suffering. And Paul David Tripp has a book, you can't really see it, but he has a book called Suffering that I would challenge you as a parent to read, to develop your own theology of suffering and then bestow that on your child.
Yeah. You as parents are building the next generation of the church. You are definitely in a pivotal role. We can't possibly go into the details that each area does in the book, but it expands the characteristics and provides even genres of books the area of giftedness might prefer. It will give likely professions, discipline problems that often surface. The book has several tests that you may be that you'd probably find helpful in helping you figure out what your child's primary gift and a secondary gift. Know that each one of the gifts has a tremendous positive influence on the church, and each one of the gifts has weaknesses. That's why we need them all working together to the building up of the church of this next generation.
You're building the church of the next generation through your kids. Teach on.
Bless you.
Thank you to the Tanners so much for your encouragement and wisdom tonight. It was a joy to hear from you both. Well, we have experienced some exciting growth this past year in our program, and I'm excited to tell you that we are planning on expanding even more this next year. We are putting together a pre-K through 8th grade co-op that will meet once a week and is designed for parents to be able to work together to homeschool their kids. We are also going to be continuing many fun field trips as well as some high school classes. Those classes for next year are going to include U.S. history, Spanish, English with American literature. We are going to be doing a debate class with a mock trial and Bible. So if you are interested in re-enrolling for next year, you can go to the Desert Christian website, click on academics, then click on homeschool, and you will find the re-enrollment form there, and you can make your payment at the front desk at the school. And I know many of you have asked questions about graduation, so I just wanted to give a brief update. Desert Christian Schools is committed to having a graduation this year. We are not exactly sure what that's going to look like, but I will definitely keep all of your families informed about that. We want to honor your seniors. So continue to fulfill all the graduation deadlines so we can stay on track. Well, I hope that this was an encouraging night for you all. I love each of you families, and we are so thankful to have you a part of this program. And with that, we are going to end the night with a special recap video of this past year. Good night, everyone.